Okay, so we're going through these examples here, and these are really important ones to take a note of. They look simple, but they've got a little bit of spice to them. What I want you to take note of is that we've got a negative base, and the power that we're raising it to is even. Now that's going to be important because when you're raising a negative number to a even power, so when you're taking a negative number and raising it to an even power, what you're going to end up with is a positive answer. So in this case, what's 3 to the power of 4 is going to be 81, and it's going to be positive 81. Now you might be asking yourself, why is it positive 81? Well, let's go through this. And I want you to kind of write here, and I want you to write note number 1, because there's actually going to be 2 notes that we make note of here. Okay, let's have a look. Let's say I have, let me do it in blue. Let's say I have negative 3 and I raise it to 2, as opposed to if I have negative 3 and I raise it to 3. Let me kind of space this out a bit. Okay, the first thing that we're going to notice is that for this first one, it is even. And let's think about what this means. It means I'm taking negative 3 and I'm going negative 3 times negative 3. Now, a negative and a negative make a positive. So this is just going to be positive 9. So as you can see, and this is the important thing, is that when I raise a negative to an even number, it's going to give me a positive answer. And you could see, like, if I raise this to the power of 4, as we did up here, well, what is this saying? This is saying, and you don't have to write this down, but what this is saying is negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 is equal to 81. Do you see how these two negatives will cancel and these two negatives will cancel, leaving me with a positive? And that's going to happen every time you have an even as your power, an even power, as opposed to if you have a odd power. Okay, so if you have an odd power, as you do here, this is odd. Let's have a look at what happens here. So here, I'm going to get negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. Now, negative and a negative make a positive, but then I times it by another negative, which means that my answer here is going to be negative. And then 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So as you can see, when I'm raising something to an odd power and I've got a negative base, my answer is going to be negative. So this is just something you need to take note of. All right. The next thing I want to take note of here, so you can write note number 2. And what I want to take note of here is the difference between, so write down negative 3 in brackets raised to the 4, as opposed to negative 3 raised to the 4. Negative 3 raised to the 4 is going to be positive 81. But this, in this example here, this is kind of like negative 1 times 3 on 4. So it's going to be negative 81. So just take note of that. And you can kind of see this on your calculator. So if I go brackets, negative 3, close brackets raised to the 4, that's that. But if I just went negative 3 raised to the 4, it's going to be negative 81. So you need to take note of the difference there. Very important. Okay, perfect. Let's move on to the next one. Over here. So take note. I've got a negative base here, and I've got an odd number. So that means my answer is going to be negative. So that means I'm going to get negative 125 a to the 3. So just think through what's happening there in order to get the best result. Because if you think about it, we're going negative 5a times negative 5a times negative 5a, which is negative 125a3 cubed. So negative and negative make a positive, but then another negative makes a negative. Ugh. I find it very confusing to say negative then odd and positive then even. I've recorded this about 100 times because I keep getting those mixed up. If I've made a mistake here, my sincere apologies, but I'm not re-recording this again. Okay, the next one here. What are we going to do? So I've got negative 2 raised to an odd number here. This is odd, if you didn't know. And this one is even, but it doesn't matter that it's even because this is a positive. So it really doesn't matter at all. Now, if I'm raising a negative to an odd number, I know that my answer is going to be negative. So that means right here, what we're going to end up with is negative 8, because 2 cubed is 8, then a to the 3, times 3a squared. 8 times 3 is negative 24, and then I add these because they've got the same base, so it's going to be a to the 5. Perfect. And there is my answer. Hopefully all of this has made sense. It's important stuff. And just little things you need to take note of as we're going through these things. I find that there's just little nitty-gritty things you need to take note of. All right, I'll see you in the next one.